Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc!
Welcome to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show, brought to you by Prokarts Race Centre.
Far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside!
The ultimate pit stop.
The safety car is coming in.
Fueling your passion for motorsport.
With an emotional moment that means everything.
All of the latest results, analysis, and interviews.
Roar the drivers on to the final lap of this race!
I'm Jamie Lemura, motorsport enthusiast, historian, and media presenter.
And I'm Lee Harrison, motorsport professional, Sprint Master Karts race driver, and Formula One alumni.
Welcome back to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show. Before we actually do Carlos due diligence and give him all the attention and focus he deserves, Flight Negative Camber, hosted by your captain Lee Harrison, is about to take us for a trip around the world.
Alrighty, 2 races have been held in the NASCAR Cup Series, with events held at Kansas Speedway and Bristol Motor Speedway. A late race caution opened the door for Tyler Reddick, and he made full use of it, pulling off a sensational 3-wide pass to take the lead in overtime and win. Denny Hamlin looked set to sweep the 2 races held at Kansas this year until that late race caution, which set up a number of pit strategies. Hamlin and Reddick were 2 of the drivers to pit for all 4 tyres. However, it was Reddick who was able to be the beneficiary on the restart, while Hamlin got balked by Kyle Larson and couldn't use the new tyre advantage quite as well. Hamlin did recover to cross the line second, ahead of Eric Jones and Kyle Larson. Hamlin did get to greet the checkered flag first in the race held at Bristol. In a race that struggled to find any real rhythm due to variable weather conditions, Hamlin took the lead with 141 laps of the 500 to go and was never headed from that point on. Kyle Larson was the big mover of the night. After starting dead last, he rebounded to finish second in a huge plus for his championship hopes. Bristol was the last race in the first round of the playoff series, with the contenders now reduced from 16 to 12. Last year's champion Joey Logano was one of the 4 drivers to be eliminated, along with Kevin Harvick, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Michael McDowell. In other news for NASCAR, it has been announced that Trackhouse Racing has signed Shane Van Gisbergen to its ranks for the 2024 season. SVG will race across all 3 of the main NASCAR series in a developmental program for the team, as well as some late model races and other brand of races as well. In the Xfinity Series, races have been held at Kansas, Bristol and Texas. John Hunter Nemechek was victorious in Kansas and Texas, with Justin Allgaier winning the race at Bristol. And in the Truck Series race that was only held at Bristol, it was Corey Heim who saw the checkered flag first. World of Outlaws, 5 events have been run in the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, with the series visiting Silver Dollar Speedway, King Speedway, Placerville Speedway, Eldora and Sharon Speedway. There were wins for Michael Buddy Kofoid, Corey Day and Rico Abreu, while another win for Brad Sweet has seen him hold on to his championship lead. A couple of decent events has also helped James McFadden climb to 11th in the standings. DTM Lamborghini driver Mirko Bortolotti has bounced back from a torrid Saturday to take his 3rd win of the year in the second race of the round, held at Germany's Sachsenring. A chaotic start to the race saw multiple cars end up in the gravel trap on the opening lap, but once the race calmed down, Bortolotti maintained his lead and held on for a lights to flag victory. As the series moved on to the Red Bull Ring this weekend, a well-timed pit stop has helped Kelvin van der Linde take victory in changeable conditions during the first race of the round. It was the Audi driver's first win since 2021. IndyCar, Chip Ganassi Racing's Scott Dixon won a chaotic final round of the IndyCar Series held at Laguna Seca, despite receiving a penalty for a collision on the opening lap. The 6-time champion held his nerve where others couldn't, as he led home Scott McLaughlin and Alex Palou in a race that featured 8 safety car periods caused by a series of overly optimistic lunges and collisions. Scott McLaughlin was left saying that he hit everything but the pace car on his run to second on the day, which also catapulted him to 3rd place overall in the championship standings. Moto2 and Moto3, Pedro Acosta has extended his lead in the Moto2 title, while David Alonso clinched a thrilling victory in the Moto3 at the San Marino GP. Acosta took his 5th win of the 2023 season as he fended off poleman Celestino Vietti for the victory. It was a tight battle between the 2 riders, but a flurry of late race mistakes from Vietti let Acosta break away slightly and seal the victory. In Moto3, a tense 4-rider battle fought hard for the win. David Alonso, poleman Jaume Masia, Dennis Onchu and David Munoz all taking turns in leading the race. As the foursome entered turn 14, it was Alonso who capitalised with a superb move on Masia to take the win. After finishing 16th and scoring no points, championship Daniel Holgado saw his championship lead slashed. And in breaking news, Masia and Acosta have won the Indian Moto3 and Moto2 races. The win for Masia and the results behind him have seen the top three in that championship whittled down to just being separated by 1 point, while Acosta is closing in on the Moto2 title. In WRC, Kalei Revenpara has extended his championship lead and taken his third win of the season in a brutal Acropolis rally held in Greece. The Toyota driver was one of only two drivers who managed to finish the 15 stages of the rally without a delay, which handed the Finnish driver a comfortable 1 minute and 30-second win ahead of teammate and championship rival Elfyn Evans. With 3 rallies to go, Revenpara is now 33 points clear of Evans, with the two Toyota drivers really the only two combatants left in the title race after a shocker from Thierry Neuville. Touchdown.
Well done.
We've landed back home.
Yes, well, I'll give you, before we disembark the flight, just got some news come through from the JND Racing, this is going back to karting, so the Nick Percat team. Brad Jenner is now driving for J&D team moving forward in 2024, 5-time Australian karting champion Brad Jenner. So he will be racing an Alonso kart as part of the J&D stable for the season ahead. So congrats to Nick Percat as well, a guest of ours previously who secured a drive with Matt Stone Racing for season 2024 and 25 as well, ensuring that he still remains on the V8 Supercar grid. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for. The greatest drive in 20 years is a bit over-exaggerated. In the last 2 to 3 years at least, the best Grand Prix that I've seen in a long, long time where I couldn't go to sleep. Whereas today, a little bit different. Probably didn't help I drove 100 laps as well. Before we do a deep dive into the masterclass known as the Carlos Sainz victory of the Singapore Grand Prix, and so thank God he was the driver that actually stopped the Red Bull domination, here are the highlights of that event.
And the Singapore Grand Prix is go. Good launch off the line by the P3 man. Charles Leclerc is trying to take second place. Carlos Sainz holds the lead. Charles Leclerc does take second place. And Lewis Hamilton is all over the road. He had got past Lando Norris, but he rejoins. Does Norris get back ahead of him? That's the question. No, Hamilton takes that third place on the road. Does he give the position to his teammate? The two Mercedes side by side. It's a Ferrari 1-2 at Marina Bay. George Russell will want that place back. Hamilton was all over the road as the sparks fly as they make their way down to turn number 5. Does Hamilton give the position back? Can he keep him behind? There's a late lunge by Nico Hülkenberg to the inside. It's a Ferrari 1-2 out front, David.
Yeah, but Hamilton's going to have to give that place back. He's gained an advantage.
So you got to let me back pass, or?
They've swapped back the Mercedes. George Russell's gone through and up to third position, so they've been on the radio, and there is the switch. Lando Norris now in 4th place, and Hamilton back to where he started the race in P5. Further back in the pack, we're on board with Oscar Piastri, and that is the contact that has cost the AlphaTauri there. And we did see Yuki Tsunoda a few moments later become our first retirement from the Grand Prix.
Yeah, Perez just Perez, honestly.
Logan Sargent off the road, and the American driver who is fighting for a contract to next year hits the wall, and then a major intervention, DC, a full safety car deployed. Well, into the pits we come. This is the moment that could change the race. And is there a opportunity? First of all, in comes Carlos Sainz. Was the second Ferrari in as well in the background? Yes, it
Driving
was.
slowly. Yeah, you can see he hung back there, forcing the Mercedes to have to drive slowly as well. So this could benefit the McLaren, actually.
Okay, so everyone is making their way in. And did Sainz get out ahead of Max Verstappen there?
Verstappen didn't manage to take the lead, so all of that strategy has gone out of the window for Max. He didn't pit, he still has to, and he doesn't have clear air. That's huge.
This is Alonso coming into the pits.
Look at the has he got some damage?
He's gone over. That'll be 5 seconds. This is Charles Leclerc's slow stop for Ferrari.
What happened there?
We had to hold you for traffic.
Yeah, Hamilton crawled into his box because he couldn't get in because Russell was there.
And it's Sainz, Verstappen, Russell, then Perez and Norris. Verstappen and Perez are expected to be a lot slower in this initial phase than the cars around them. Good run now for George Russell. Russell's all over the road. Does he get a nose to the inside? Brilliant pictures of 2 overtakes at the same time. Russell gets past Verstappen, and also going through is Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton was very close to Perez, and he's not able to get by, but Russell is up to second. Norris is up to 4th. There is Lando Norris taking the position away from Max Verstappen and improving to the podium places. It's Sainz, then Russell, then Norris as Max Verstappen drops to 4th.
Lewis Hamilton comes and Verstappen puts up no defence. He has resigned himself.
Goes Lewis Hamilton, and he takes 4th position. Verstappen knows that it's about extending the stint now. Fernando Alonso to the inside of Sergio Perez and taking the position away. There's still a little bit of traction left for Perez. 3 into 1 corner will not go. Round the outside goes Esteban Ocon, side by side with Fernando Alonso, who's wide at this part of the circuit, and somehow they're in the same order that they left. Oh no, they're not, because here comes the Alpine. Better traction, and that will be the position. Fernando Alonso refuses to give it up, but he'll have to, and Ocon moves up to 8th. A record-breaking run of 10 Grand Prix victories in a row, and you have to celebrate it when you're in the form like that, because things can easily change in Formula One. It is Ferrari, then Mercedes, then McLaren out front, and Max Verstappen is down in 15th position. Great drive will go unrewarded for Esteban Ocon, who is pulling off some fine moves there, and he will park up. He's out.
No! He hit the curb coming out of the last corner, and then it's like he's in 6th gear, but he's not driving. So is that clutch?
And the Mercedes drivers have elected to give up track position at a street circuit and to make moves to try and fight for victory in Singapore. The virtual safety car is ending. It's a slow stop for Aston Martin at the back of the car. The rear jack that was redesigned for the new aerodynamic part at the rear of that car, and the car slipping off the jack as a result. Fighting Joe Guanyu, who started from the pit lane, the team that is currently Alfa Romeo. There will be Sauber, late send from the world champion, and Max Verstappen fights his way back to the points. And George Russell is close now. He's got an opportunity. This is his first real run on the Ferrari driver ahead. Go to the outside line, says Charles Leclerc, but then it's the up and under attempt from George Russell. This is the traction race we were telling you about. George Russell's got a chance now to win this Grand Prix, because he's fought his way by and he's taken 3rd place. And Lewis Hamilton is the second Mercedes on the charge. Lewis Hamilton fights away by. And the team are fighting their way by to the front of the field now. 3rd and 4th for Mercedes.
Gasly can't turn the car. Now we'll get DRS, and this should be a relative drive-by to the outside. Switch back.
Let's see if he can get by. Gasly will try and hang on to it, but Verstappen's got the better grip. He's got the place, and at turn 14, he is up to 6th.
Lando 0.8 behind, 0.8 with DRS. Russell no DRS.
Yeah, it's on purpose.
Copy that.
George Russell was able to set up the move before. He's really close this time. Russell having the defensive shape thrown. But now there's an opportunity to stand on the power. The 2 British drivers go wheel to wheel. George Russell trying to fight his way by. Will that be the inside line? No, Norris gets his elbows out. And that could have won the race for Carlos Sainz. Russell knows he needs to try and make the place right now. Hamilton was giving his teammate the hurry up, but Sainz's tactical awareness may well have won him this Grand Prix on the 62nd and last lap. He's got a great advantage now. The charging Mercedes might be denied, but look at the top 4 on this last lap, nearly glued together.
Yeah, they're still fighting on, but there's only one more DRS zone left, and Russell, if he wants to win, needs to make 2 positions. So has Sainz now done enough? Can he get away from Norris? That's the next question. Lando's still pushing for the win. Russell's off.
George Russell into the wall and out of the race. The British driver who was charging for victory is out on the last lap, and he's in the Tech Pro.
On board, final lap, and you see Norris there with the right rear and Russell with the right front. He did take out quite a bite of that wall with the right rear. Opens up that corner, and the wall just juts out slightly, and that was George.
George Russell, who was dreaming of a second career victory, but it's heading to this man instead. Formula One at its absolute finest. Carlos Sainz, tactical brilliance. Carlos Sainz, the winner of the Singapore Grand Prix. Lando Norris in 2nd place, and a charging drive from Lewis Hamilton puts him on the podium once again in Formula One. And it's side by side across the line. Leclerc hung on by 0.2 of a second. Ferrari's first victory since Austria last year. Red Bull's perfect season ends at Grand Prix 15. Their phenomenal winning run is over, ended by Ferrari's Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris matches his personal best in Formula 1 with second, and Lewis Hamilton at charging third for his 196th podium.
To Red Bull. Sucked in. I know, how mature, hey?
So mature.
So mature, I know. I'll run through the top 10 very quickly. So, Carlos, El Matador, El Dios, Sainz first, Lando Norris second, Lewis Hamilton third, Charles Leclerc fourth, Max Verstappen making the most of fresh set of tyres, fighting back to fifth, Pierre Gasly sixth, Oscar Piastri seventh, Sergio Perez eighth, Liam Lawson ninth, and Kevin Magnussen rounding out the top 10. It takes a special breed, and I've waxed lyrical about this for the last 2 to 3 years since the great man has joined Ferrari, but finally he had an opportunity to show just how much racing IQ actually does matter in today's age, because that was just to measure 0.8 of a second in your rear vision mirror and having your engineer kind of giving you some updates and gaps and stuff like that, but to actually think about using DRS to back up Lando, to help Lando fend off the Mercedes-Benz drivers, is just pure class. And 99.9% of the grid wouldn't have the capacity to even think of it. Telling you now.
It's whatever you want to call it, but it's pure rubbish that they can drive around that slowly and not be able to overtake each other still. Like, honestly, and you see it today with Suzuka. They were lapping 4.5 seconds slower per lap than the best lap in the race was 4.5 seconds slower than their qualifying lap. Could you imagine driving around Bolivar 4.5 seconds slower to manage a race?
It's like a two-stroker going to a four-stroke.
Yeah,
that's about 4.5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly right. Like,
yeah.
It's just absolutely diabolical that's the way that Formula One is at the moment. But we are in the world that we are in.
Yeah, the only way to solve that is refueling, where it's just basically sprint, refuel. Yep. But yeah, I get the economy, and they made the fuel tanks bigger as well for this year to try and encourage, or for the new car,
racing.
Yeah, for more racing, and and these engines are barely burning a fuel as it is. So yeah, but that's also the nature of Singapore. The teams will try as much as they can to push out a single stop. Yeah. Whereas Mercedes took the gamble and did the two and nearly pulled it off.
They would have pulled it off if there was a bit longer of a straight that they could have utilised some DRS, or if Sainz wasn't so clever with the way that he used himself to keep Lando some DRS.
Tactical brilliance. It's just
very clever race.
It was very, very clever. But you know what? How good was it to see a battle of the lead like that? You got 4 cars nose to tail. At some stages, he had 5 with Leclerc somewhat hovering before he cooked his tyres towards the end of the race. But it was just refreshing, and it could have gone to any of the 4 could have taken the win. Really,
yeah. If there was a track that they could have passed on, but no, it's, to see the 4 cars fighting so closely. It kept you on the edge of your seat. It kept you interested in the race, and yeah, like you said, it was. Thank God it was broken Red Bull's streak.
Yep.
And thank God it was a Ferrari car that did it.
Thank God. I can't believe you're saying this is great.
Oh, look, if there was anyone else on the grid that you'd like to win, it's Ferrari. They were, after how they started last year, it's good to see that they can still fight.
They're slowly coming back. Look, at the way that Max dominated Suzuka this weekend, all the teams have still got a long way to go. But yeah, no, it was amazing. And look, as an event, how good is Singapore? Did you hear the concert lineup for the Singapore Grand Prix? I
remember hearing it, but Robbie Williams was one of them.
Robbie Williams,
yeah,
the Black Eyed Peas, Kings of Leon, right? And what have they got here for the Australian Grand Prix? What, a banjo and 3 flies or something like that? Like, it's the Grand Prix itself is just next level.
Yeah, well, even the concert at the Adelaide 500, Robbie Williams is coming to do that. So that's pretty cool.
I think Robbie Williams wants to be an Australian by the sounds of it, because he's been doing videos of Ange Postecoglou for the Tottenham Hotspurs as well. He just loves Down Under.
No, he's a massive Tottenham fan. And with Ange being the Tottenham manager now and propelling them to the top of the ladder in the league, he's got nothing but praise. For Mr. Vasseur, the head of Ferrari, he was emotional after the event. That was his first win as well, and that does alleviate a little bit of pressure. Especially
It's been a couple of races now where, for the most part, Ferrari have actually started to execute tactics quite soundly for the most part, which is nice to see. But yeah, any time that you get a win and you break the run of Red Bull and have a victory like that will always be a special place. But Ferrari traditionally have always been pretty strong around Singapore as well. Yeah,
absolutely. You can understand the emotion from Freddie breaking that Red Bull streak. It's, first win in Ferrari would be a pretty magical experience. But yeah, they have been strong down to the shorter wheelbases and that sort of stuff, and they've always had a good bottom end engine. And it does well around those sorts of street circuits like that. You see it with like Azerbaijan and stuff, that they're always strong there, where they've got to have lots of low down power. They do have a good car for those street tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. They showed it at Monaco this year as well, where the car was strong. So. We'll see what happens for the rest of the remaining part, because now we go to the
Middle Eastern swing. With a touch of America put in there as well.
Yeah, and a drizzle of South America and stuff in there too. So yeah, it'll be a crazy period. But how would you feel if you were Liam Lawson right now?
Pretty overwhelmed that I'm doing that good in Formula One, but pretty upset that I don't have a seat.
Yeah, and I know you're not going to like hearing this because he was your love child, but Liam Lawson has made Nick De Vries look like the cheapest, nastiest dog food that you could possibly give your dog that you love. And it just puts into perspective how much young Nick was struggling this year. But I'd feel pretty gutted. You know, he's thrown in the deep end. He's stitched together 3 amazing performances, and Singapore was a great, and even today, his race was sensational in Japan. To then not get a look in now, mind you, if Sergio Perez is going to show what he's done today, who's to say that they won't have Danny Rick do the switcheroo? And so Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda were confirmed as AlphaTauri drivers for next year, but who's to say that won't actually change if Perez keeps going the way he's going?
There is 6 races to go in this championship. If Perez don't pull his finger out, they've just announced that they've signed drivers. That doesn't mean anything in this day and age. They can quickly re-announce that someone else is not racing and they're moving stuff around, especially when it's Red Bull and AlphaTauri that we're talking about. It might be a bit harder if you're trying to steal someone that's just signed a contract for Mercedes, but that's not the case. So, look, Perez has still got some work to do. Not a very good race for him on the streets of Singapore. Again, not a very good race for him this afternoon at Suzuka. It's all mountains of pressure on Perez at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going on to Red Bull, they struggled so badly over the course of the race or the whole weekend at Singapore. But at other street tracks this year, they've actually been quite strong. I cannot understand how they could not come back. Like, they were nowhere for the whole weekend.
They came back in the race. Max's race pace was second to none, and I honestly believe that if not for the timing of the safety cars and the virtual safety cars, we would be we might be having a different conversation right now. He would have got onto the podium. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I actually still think he would have won the race. If the race had gone lights to flag, which again rarely happens in Singapore, he cut the gap down to Sainz from 22 seconds or something in the last 10 laps down to 10 seconds. So his pace was amazing through the race. It was just the fact that they could not capitalise on their qualifying with the bumps in the track and making the aero work. You think of all the other street tracks that we've gone to this year, maybe besides Monaco, but again, that's hard to beat a Red Bull around Monaco with how much downforce they do produce. But you look at Jeddah, you look at Azerbaijan, you look at Miami. They're all brand new street circuits that there is not a bump on that track at all. So nice flat surface for them to drive across. Nothing upsetting the underfloor for the downforce and the ground effect. So that's where they struggled the most. And like I said, they sort of came back at it during the race, and the race pace was pretty strong. But when you're buried deep in the traffic, it's hard to take advantage of any of those safety cars and stuff.
Yeah. I actually just forgot that Perez tried a similar move on what he did Magnussen today with Albon in Singapore and didn't pull it off, and that actually caused Albon's retirement from the race and actually a point score opportunity for Williams as well on a track that they didn't think they were going to do all that well in. So, yeah, Sergio's just having some Barry Crockers. It's not even, what did Damon Hill call it today? A mare.
Yeah.
It's much more than a mare.
Yeah.
It's really poor. Like, I just am staggered at the drop-off, in terms of his quality of driving over the course of the season. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, 100%. And whether there's been some changes to the car setup that hasn't suited him, but still, you've got to adjust and adapt. He's lucky that he's still sitting second in the championship, because I think if that came under threat, I don't think Helmut and Christian would keep him around for much longer.
Well, I mean, pardon me, Max is just about. He's won the title. He's got to just score points at the sprint race at Qatar in the next event. But I wouldn't see Max sacrificing his race to try and help Sergio get second position.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. That's not in Max's vocabulary, I don't think.
No. You know what? You know how this year they've created this whole thing about Max's podcast, which is like the podium finish and all that sort of stuff. Yep. Do you hear what Max said? He actually doesn't like podcasts. No. Oh, that crossed him off getting off our show. We're done there.
It might be different. He might like to come on ours. We can never hurts to ask a question.
If he's heard my rants over the last 2 or 3 years, probably won't. No. What was your take on Mercedes and in particular George Russell?
Rookie error.
Yeah,
absolute rookie error. Lando went in there as well, and George just tried to give that extra millimetre of space and cleaned up the wall. That was a pretty rookie error, but good to see. I mean, again, they had pace there, but then you look at Japan and they had no pace again. They played a really good strategy in Singapore with the two-stopper, put them on super fresh tyres. Again, that helped with the virtual safety cars and that sort of stuff. But, good to see. Good to see them back in the fight. I wish George hadn't put it in the wall. That would have been much better podium for me. But yeah, no, they had a strong race.
Yeah. It was. It's funny how when we were watching the race, and when I say we, my brothers and I, we were messaging each other, and they were saying, Ferrari have cooked the strategy again. This, and I was like, well, no, not really. I mean, you got first and you got third. Like, what are you supposed to do? You're not going to. Because, I mean, Mercedes made the pit stop under virtual safety car.
Yeah.
Knowing Ferrari's luck, they would have put one of the cars in and it would have been green, and then they would have been ridiculed for making the move under the virtual safety car. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just funny how, finally a safety car decision actually went in the favour of Mercedes for a change, which hasn't really happened since 2021. And even then, that was a debacle. We won't go there. And, to then sort of come back and nearly pull it off at the rate of knots. Even there was even talk that actually Russell should have actually moved aside and let Lewis through, because Lewis was the quicker of the two towards the end of that stint. So, I don't see that was going to happen.
No, I know you see it again at Suzuka. There's a bit of tension in that camp at the moment. But,
yep.
You go back to Ferrari's strategies as well, and it was pretty cool to see them actually separate their strategies off the start. And Charles starting off of third, they put him on the soft tyre to try and get the jump going into turn one, which he ended up doing. So they're sitting first and second for a while there, and Carlos is able just to control the race pace with his little sidewinder behind him. So, good bold strategy there from Ferrari, and it's something I would have liked to have seen McLaren try today as well.
Yeah. Getting on to Mercedes though, it's become I don't know whether you saw Lewis's interview after the race, where it was a little bit of a rally cry, but also a statement of, I'm still the top dog, and I know what direction we need to go in. And it was almost like, you guys need to start to listen to me, and if you're wanting to make some progress. Very interesting in terms of that dynamic and how him and Russell raced today.
Yeah. He cried like a little baby and tried to run his teammate off the track and crash into him a couple of times. When, the start of the race, George had the pace. So I think Lewis needs to just, do what's best for the team and not worry about his own selfish interests. They have gotten a little bit closer, and that's the spot for the debrief. But if one driver's particularly fast in one part of the race and needs to be reversed later on in the race, then they both need to play sensibly, because they they probably lost the chance at racing for the back end of the podium today because of their antics in the middle part of the race.
Well, we'll come back after the break and talk a little bit about McLaren, and then obviously we'll do a recap of this afternoon's Japanese Grand Prix.
Follow us on socials, join us on our website, negativecamber.co, and be sure to subscribe to the Negative Camber Club for access to exclusive content, episode previews, and special deals from our amazing partners.
Ready to turn your karting dreams into reality? Look no further than Pro-Karts Race Centre. Imagine hitting the track in the kart of your dreams, a ride that matches your budget and aspirations perfectly. With our pre-loved kart sourcing service, we make it happen. Our experienced team isn't just about mechanics, they're dream builders. We meticulously hand-pick each kart, ensuring reliability, performance, and sheer exhilaration. Whether you're a seasoned racer looking for an upgrade or a newcomer stepping into the world of karting, we're your pit crew, your partners in racing dreams. Get ready to feel the wind in your hair, the thrill in your heart, and the victory at your fingertips with Pro-Karts Race Centre, where dreams truly come to life. Visit prokartsracecentre.com.au or pop in for a chat at 30 Research Road, Paraka. Pro-Karts Race Centre, fueling your dreams, igniting your potential.
Welcome back to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show. Let's have a look. We are talking about Formula One because there's been so much happening. We'll do a recap of the Japanese Grand Prix, hey, and rinse and repeat. We got back to normality. The high became a not so high after that. Max Verstappen taking pole and dominating the Japanese Grand Prix at Honda's home ground. Lando Norris second, and Oscar Piastri taking his first podium in Formula One with a fine third place. Charles Leclerc fourth, Lewis Hamilton fifth, Carlos Sainz sixth, George Russell seventh, Fernando Alonso eighth, Esteban Ocon ninth, and Pierre Gasly rounding out the top 10. Sees Red Bull taking their sixth Constructors' title and their second in a row. Two off Mercedes at the moment, who have 8, I believe, as well. So, flexible wings. That was all the rage talking about it in Singapore, where, to get very, very technical, it was revealed that the FIA have clamped down on wings that flex under load, and it was suspected that Red Bull was certainly a victim of that. In fact, there was an article that came out on some Italian sports channels during the week, which actually showed their theory of how that works, where the little hole in the very, very front of the nose cone acts as a bit of a vacuum, and it will actually deviate the air on either side of the front wing, and there's like a little lever that will actually flex it down. It does that for the front, and then on the rear wing, it actually kicks the rear wing back a touch, which therefore gives the extra DRS advantage that Red Bull supposedly have. So
it's not even just extra DRS, it just reduces the drag and in full stop, even not when the DRS is open.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, the question is, and I guess the question was, is that actually illegal? Well, or is it just in that fabled grey area where it's not legal and it's not illegal, but clearly they put a clamp on it?
Well, the FIA released 2 technical directives to try and stop any flexible wing usage, but Red Bull came out and said that it actually hasn't changed any component on their car at all. So whatever they were trying to fix with the FIA, in whether it had any advantage for Red Bull, that clearly was not the case, and we saw. And the conspiracy theorists went into bloody meltdown after Singapore, saying, "Oh, the new technical directives, Red Bull have been cheating this whole time, and because of these new technical directives, that's why they're no good in Singapore." But obviously, that had nothing to do with it when they come out and when one driver in their team comes out and absolutely annihilates the field again this weekend. Fastest lap in every practice session, fastest lap in Q3, fastest lap in the race, led every lap of the race and won by 19 seconds.
Yeah, the only thing that was flexing were the muscles in the Red Bull camp, because that was, for one half of the garage, because the other one had an absolute shocker, and that was Sergio Perez, a day to forget. We've touched on that throughout the whole episode of this show so far, so we won't cover that all ground, but AlphaTauri with Tsunoda and Ricciardo coming out for 2024. Tell you what, Danny Rick would be counting his blessings, because there is a kid that should have been given an opportunity and may do, because Logan Sargent's dropped the bundle big time at Williams at the moment. And his drive today, Liam Lawson, with his performance was was quite impressive and should feel dudded, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I would feel, like I said it before, I feel pretty upset that I've come out and done what I've done and not guaranteed a drive for next year. I don't see him going to Williams. I think he's in that Red Bull family very, very tightly, unless they loan him out in some way, shape or form and can recall him whenever they want. But yeah, like the race today, Japan, was the first time that he's actually had to go toe-to-toe with Yuki without Yuki having some sort of drama or non-finish over the last 3 races. And he got him, and he showed him a clean pair of heels. They raced wheel-to-wheel on the opening lap, really close quarters, and Lawson came out on top and then fought back from not having the most optimised pit strategy to still beat Tsunoda at the end of the race.
If that was a drive to prove a point, that was it. And you could tell just by the actions today that it was 0 Fs given. So it was great to see, but I don't think we've seen the last of Liam Lawson.
No, 100%. He's going to be on a reserve driver list next year for sure, whether it's directly under Red Bull or whether he's still AlphaTauri's reserve driver. I believe they're more looking at Red Bull as the reserve driver. But again,
which I think he is anyway, isn't he?
No, I think it was Daniel.
Yeah.
And then Liam was in the AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these next few races pan out. As like we've said, it just because Daniel and Yuki have been announced, it doesn't mean that there can't be changes later on in the season or even before next year starts. Because there's obviously no extension has been announced to Sergio's contract, so it's still just as easy as it is at the moment for Red Bull to buy him out.
Yeah, he's not helping his cause at all by the way Perez is driving today. I mean, the attempted pass on Magnussen it was just error riddled. Like the attempted pass on Magnussen just made no sense. The overtaking of Alonso as he was going into the pit lane. He got dudded at the start. I'll give him that with the front wing and all that sort of stuff where he was in that concertina.
Yeah, but you put yourself in those positions too.
Yeah, by qualifying poorly.
How many other drivers did... Yeah, exactly. That's the start of it, by qualifying poorly. But how many other drivers raced down to turn 1 and didn't get a wing, a cracked wing, raced in close quarters? So you're a maker of your own bed.
See Carlos' start was beautiful.
Yeah, and but you're right. Passing Fernando into the pits, and then he raced to the exit of the pit line as well and overtook 2 cars. So it was just a clumsy showing.
I wasn't more clumsy. Probably being nice, mate. To be honest, like it was atrocious today. Like that's stuff that's bordering on hire kart. Actually, no. There's hire karters that have actually got better mentality than that. You know what I mean? Like, it was just... It's dumb. There's no other way to put it. Like, it was just really, really poor. Like, if I was Helmut Marko or Christian Horner, I'd be embarrassed with that drive today. And I don't give 2 hoots what excuse Perez would give in that. At a driver of his calibre and his experience, you can have bad days, but that's just no excuse. No. That's shocking.
To qualify, so far behind your teammate as well, 7 or 8 tenths or what it was, and you haven't been close to him for a long time. It's just you need a good attitude adjustment.
Yeah. Would you say? I mean, Karun Chandler, I actually am quite fond of. I think he's a great commentator. Called Max Verstappen's qualifying lap one of the best ones of all time. A little bit over the top, I think. I actually rate Oscar Piastri's lap better than Max's. Yeah. If you put it into context. Yeah. Was it 6 tenths off in a car that's probably about 3 to 6 tenths off? Yep. And first time at the track and he's out-qualified Lando. Yeah. So I kind of think, well, what would Oscar do in the Red Bull car then?
Yeah, and you think, what would Lando do in the Red Bull car? Yeah. What would a lot of other drivers do in the Red Bull car that they out-qualified Sergio in? So, I don't think Max's was the qualifying lap of all qualifying laps. I think he's just... It does make you wonder, though, Perez is struggling so hard, so, how much better is the car and how much better is Max than the rest of the field? So,
I know we're going to go back to Singapore. Sainz aside, I think the real quality of where Max is at is that he is no better than a good chunk of that field of drivers, because other drivers would have even been able to... Now, he took advantage of tyres and safety cars and all that sort of stuff that contributed, but I'm talking about all-round performance. They couldn't get their head around it and couldn't work through the problem over that 4-day period, or 3 days or wherever it was. And so I think, tyres came into it. That inflated the performance. He had a distinct tyre advantage compared to outside of the Mercedes guys in that top 5. I mean, Leclerc's tyres were shot. The fact that he finished 4th or 5th or whatever it was a miracle in itself. And admittedly, he did play scapegoat to Ferrari to protect Carlos. But I would say that that Verstappen is probably no better than the top echelon. Like, he's not, put it this way. See, for me, qualifying lap of all time is Ayrton Senna 1988, who's 1.5 seconds faster than Alain Prost in exactly the same car. Mm-hmm. That is, if Max did that, then I'll be like, hey, you know what? All the crap that I've been giving this dude for the last 2.5, 3 years, I'll probably start to take some of that back. But the fact that he's only qualified half a second faster than Oscar Piastri, yeah, you know. And like Sergio, well, I mean, look, with how bad Sergio been this year, the only way that I would say that I would really start to see Max is if, say, someone like Daniel Ricciardo was given an identical car and was given equal opportunity to Max, then have a fair fight over it, and then you'll see. Yep. And if Max is still flogging Danny Rick, because then that would be where I would see it, personally. You know. Yeah. But yeah, I think the Red Bull in Max's hands, because it's like a glove, it's like a suit. A tailored suit just feels nice. Off the rack, it's, you know, if it doesn't fit you properly, you can tell. So you don't wear suits, what would you know? But yeah, I think, how many races we got left? We've got Qatar, there's
Brazil, Abu Dhabi, Las Vegas. Yep. So I think there's still 5.
5 or 6.
5 to go. Mexico still as well, so there's still 5 at least.
It's dragged on a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, yeah. Like, it's good that it comes quick fire after the summer break. So there's not many weekends now between now and this first weekend of December where there's not a Grand Prix, which is nice. Yeah, absolutely. But probably thank God one of the more dominant seasons is kind of coming to a bit of a conclusion as well. So for the ones that cry boredom.
A huge thank you goes out to our podium partner, Procast Race Centre, and our incredible sponsors. Your partnership allows us to continue bringing you this show and dive deeper into the world of motorsports. If your business adds value to the motorsport community, get in touch with us to become a Negative Camber partner.
Time to discover more than just a track. It's time to find your racing family at Procast Race Centre. We're more than a racing facility. We're a community of enthusiasts bound by our shared love for motorsport. What sets us apart? Our commitment to inclusivity. We're breaking barriers, welcoming rookies and pros alike to experience the thrill of racing. With our low investment pathways into karting, we're paving the way for the next generation of racers. Whether you're a seasoned racer seeking camaraderie or a beginner eager to learn, Procast Race Centre is your home. Join our vibrant community, feel the passion and share the rush of victory with friends who share your passion. Visit prokartsracecentre.com.au or pop in for a chat at 30 Research Road, Paraka. Procast Race Centre, fueling your passion, igniting your potential.
A series that's not boredom is MotoGP. And we have two races to cover. One in particular, which was the San Marino MotoGP that was held a week or two ago, which was the Pecco, the miracle of Pecco, where he managed to finish third in a race that he, by rights, probably shouldn't have even been in. So here's the top 5 highlights of that particular meet, and then we'll run through some results.
Lights out and we are going. San Marino is a superb launch from that 10th MotoGP pole from Jorge Martin. He leads the way, just he did in the sprint yesterday. Marco Bezzecchi's got away well too. Bagnaia didn't get a good start. Pedrosa has a moment there on the rear as he squeezed the power on towards turn 2. He was briefly in third place, but Pedrosa back in P4 where he started. That was the big rear tyre slide for Danny Pedrosa, which checked up the field behind him. He made a really good start, hadn't he? We still look at these replays as there's contact there between Bagnaia and Bezzecchi. Marco Bezzecchi into Quercia corner. Bezzecchi goes through. Well, he put that mistake at turn 10 behind him on the previous lap very, very quickly, did Marco Bezzecchi. He then hits second place.
Beautiful move that from Bezzecchi, although he's going hot again for the second lap in a row into Tramonto. So all that hard work that he did, it was a brilliant move on the brakes into Quercia. He's now going to make that move all over again.
Brad Binder has crashed out of 4th place.
There it is, into turn 14. Brad Binder crashing out of the race. So any hopes of a KTM podium now once again rest on the shoulders of Dani Pedrosa, who is matching the race leaders for pace, but he's 2 seconds off the back of the leading trio.
Yellow flags.
Yeah, KTM's afternoon's just got worse, Matt, because it was Jack Miller and Michele Pirro who were plummeting down the order. They were running together in 14th, 15th and 16th, and there you can see both bikes there on the outside of turn 4. That was where Jack Miller crashed out here last year, and he's gone down with Michele Pirro. So both of the factory KTM's down on consecutive laps. Bezzecchi, you'd imagine, can see this unfolding up ahead of him and looks like he wants to get on with this and get past Pecco Bagnaia, although the horse might well have bolted in this one in the form of Jorge Martin through the first sector on this lap. The advantage increased even further up to 1.2 seconds. That was Bagnaia's slowest lap for quite some time, a 1:32.4 last time around.
Superhuman effort though, this isn't it, by the world champion. He is going to surrender that second place. There's nothing he can do to resist it. Bezzecchi pinches the inside line going through turn 8. To keep himself in second place for as long as he did, to keep himself on Jorge Martin's exhaust pipes for as long as he did, was a Herculean effort, wasn't it, by Bagnaia? 5 laps that are going to feel like 50, aren't they, for Bagnaia right now? And this is going to be the mistake then. Bagnaia coming out of turn number 14 on the way in as well, but clearly he lost a little bit of time there. A 1:31.999 from Pedrosa. That is the closest that Dani Pedrosa has been. Is he mounting a late charge here? Is he going to inflict late heartache on Pecco Bagnaia? Bagnaia, we know, is probably the best defensive rider in MotoGP. He's so hard to overtake. He's so good on the brakes, but it looks like he's just running out of rear grip himself here. This is the gap then. Bagnaia is being told that there's nothing between him now and Dani Pedrosa. Look at the corner speed that Pedrosa has, the edge grip that Pedrosa has, like carbon fibre chassis KTM. Bagnaia, there could be some crushing late heartache coming here. He's worked so hard for this home podium, but the pressure coming from Pedrosa. Martin is the Mazzano maestro in MotoGP. He completes the dream double victory. He won the sprint yesterday from start to finish. He wins the Grand Prix today from start to finish. Jorge Martin then wins to close the gap to Pecco Bagnaia in the World Championship. What a weekend for Jorge Martin. All-time lap record to take pole position. Sprint dominant victory yesterday. Brilliant victor here today. Dream weekend in Mazzano.
Today was the day for the Martinator as Jorge Martin dominates the San Marino Grand Prix weekend.
And dominate he did. But I tell you what, Pecco for the Courage Award must take it, because the guy could barely stand up at the end of that race. And yeah, these guys don't get paid enough for what they do, to what they put themselves through physically as well as mentally. But Jorge Martin first, Matteo Bezzecchi second, Bagnaia third, Pedrosa fourth. That was a sensational ride for being a test rider for KTM. Vinales fifth, Oliveira sixth, Marc Marquez seventh, Fernandez in eighth, Luca Marini ninth, and Johan Zarco rounding up the top 10. Martin is really starting to find some momentum now, and he's really tidied up his riding in regards to last year. It was spill after spill after spill. And this year, quite the opposite, and he's now really starting to mount a title challenge. Yeah, absolutely. Consistency is paying off for Martin, and a few slip-ups for the current champion, Bagnaia, and he's right back in the championship hunt. So it's going to be an interesting final few rounds of the championship. I think they've still got about 5 rounds to go as well. So, it's going to be quite a good end to the year. Despite the theatrics of today, I'm not throwing in the towel on the Pecco show. Although the Pecco show has just had a little bit of a rough patch at the moment. The Indian Grand Prix was just run and won a short time ago. We've got the top 10 here. We've got Bezzecchi first, Jorge Martin second. Brace yourselves here. Quartararo third, Brad Binder fourth, and my boy Joan Mir in the top 5. My God, what's going on? Must have been some of the food over there or something over in Indiana was going on there. But Johan Zarco in 6th, Morbidelli 7th, Vinales in 8th, Marquez rounding up, finishing 9th, and Fernandez rounding out the top 10. And the Pecco show, he threw away his second spot. Yep. Damn it.
Well, that's brought the championship lead down to 13 points now. So, like we said, well and truly on in the championship. And Bezzecchi is only 44 points behind as well. So, a couple more mistakes from Bagnaia, and it's all on. It's all to play for. But you went into that bit of highlights saying something that's not boring is MotoGP. But if you read the statements from the riders, they've come out and said that there's questions to be asked about the lack of spectacle that there is in MotoGP, and it's all become a bit too pedestrian.
Are they mad?
Well, I think I see some of their sides. Like, I would rather sit and watch a Moto3 race and to some point a Moto2 race before watching a MotoGP race. I think they've gone sort of the same way with all of the electronics and all of the bike parts and stuff. It's not really as raw as it used to be, but. Yep. But yeah, there was a time where I wouldn't miss a MotoGP race because it was, even look back to 2019, the same track, Misano. There was 6 overtakes on the last lap between Marquez and Quartararo. The last lap alone, there was 6 overtakes. In the weekend just gone, there was 1 pass for the top 4 riders in both the sprint and feature race.
Yeah. And you're right. I think... I don't know what it is with engineers and teams that as soon as they get a bigger purse, all of a sudden they go gangbusters on things like aerodynamics and whiz-bang electronics. So...
Well, it's all about going fast, eh? It's all about going faster and faster and faster, not worried about the spectacle. And, we'll talk the same stuff with Formula One. And when we look back at 4SS racing, like, it doesn't have to go fast to make it the most exciting and most well thought out racing.
Yeah. Dorma are really good though at making changes, so I would suspect that they will get their act together really, really quickly. And normally they generally listen to the riders, so yeah, we'll see. Speaking of listening, I want to listen to find out what's happening with Marc Marquez and the 2024, I guess, riding arrangement, because he tested the 24 Honda and was not necessarily glowing with praise, and then clearly whatever updates they've done or however it suited the Indian track, Joan Mir, I mean, God, when was the last time Joan Mir finished in the top 5? I can't remember.
This year. It's barely even finished a Sunday race this year.
Exactly.
So, obviously the Indian track gelled well because even Marquez was running 4th before he had trouble in the race and ended up finishing inside the top 10 still. But, Marquez has given a list of demands to the team, to Alberto Puig and steal all sorts of engineers and steal all sorts of test riders because that's what he needs and that's what he thinks Honda is lacking.
I love Marc Marquez. Get everyone to do the work for me. Get everyone to do the work for me.
He needs smarter people to build him a fast bike and he'll put the bike back on top.
Yeah, what does that say about him? VR46 riders, they've re-signed for next year and, justifiably so. I think both Luca Marini in their own way and Bezzecchi in particular have been absolutely sensational. So, and obviously they've got a great bike in Energy Caddy. So I think they'll be a title threat at least for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and Bezzecchi is doing super well, like you see with his win tonight at the Indian GP and running 3rd in the championship. It's been a good harmony in that team, and they'll look forward to push even further into next year.
Pecco just needs to keep taking that Pecco juice. He'll be right.
He just needs to stop falling off the bike.
Yes. Actually, you know what? Your crystal ball actually worked for once this year. Once.
Well, it's two out of the last 3 races where he's made an error.
Yeah, exactly.
A big error.
Yeah.
Under no pressure. His high side, which could have ended his championship run,
or his life,
or his life. Exactly right at Catalunya, and now throwing it down at India.
Yep. No, you're right. He's got to get, and that's always been the weakness, hasn't it? I've been saying it even myself in the last 12 months. Is when the pressure is somewhat on or whatever, it always falls apart. So. Sandown 500 V8 Supercars was on last week. You were at the track. I was watching this. And it was actually great to have the curtain raiser before Bathurst, and the crowds responded too. They were packed to the rafters for this race, which was good to see. So I'll round out the top 10. Brock Feeney and, what a first name. Hey, Jamie Whincup. What a legend. At least he wins races. Jamie Whincup first, and then you had Kostecki and Russell second, SVG and Stanaway, and SVG got baked by Greg Murphy during the broadcast. It was great because one of the goats of Kiwi racing has just called out SVG for pretty much what he was this season. It was great to see. But if it was Mark Scaife, on the other hand, that said it, all hell would have broken loose and everything in social media would have melted down. So thank you, Greg, for speaking the truth. We had Will Brown and Perkins in 4th, Heimgartner Wood 5th, Payne and Estra, who were for the Grove team, and Estra was sensational, really. Great drive. In 6th, Davison 7th, De Pasquale and D'Alberto 8th, Slade Webb 9th, and rounding out the top 10 was Lowndes and Goddard. So a few takeaways. On the lowdown, the Mustangs actually got a bit of a parity tweak on the shift cut from gears 3rd to 6th, or 5th or 6th, during the weekend, which contributed to them actually having a good representation in the top 10 for qualifying.
1/3 of a chance.
Yeah, exactly. And props to Todd Hazelwood, who pulled an absolute masterstroke in qualifying on to get into the top 10 shootout on the Saturday, where he himself made the decision to actually take the car out with 5 minutes to go and have the complete track to himself and put a lap that was good enough to still stay in the top 5 after the final run. So, Todd, props to you, mate, because that was your call, and you showed him that class is not water as well, so it never runs out. The results actually were, I guess, from the race, it was, I don't know whether you'd seen it, but the Tander incident. So the Mustangs with Tander and Cameron Waters were really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Tander in particular had cracking pace, and they were well within the fight. And then going down Dandenong Road at about 24 laps in, he loses a rear tyre, the hub's cagged itself, and this tyre's gone flying up into the air. James Moffat's minding his own business. The tyre lands at the back of Cameron Waters' car and is completely broken off the rear wing.
Yeah, right.
And for some inexplicable reason, when they've pitted under safety car, none of the Tickford team noticed that the wing was missing until the cars left the pit lane. And so all of a sudden and it was actually off-centre as well. So they had to pull the car in, replace the rear wing, get it all level. That ruined Ford's chances.
Mm-hmm.
Walkinshaw and Andretti United were nowhere for the whole weekend. They had completely out of the setup window. So that pretty much spelt the end in terms of Mustangs outright. And what Ford have asked for is more parity tweaks leading into Bathurst, which Jamie Whincup has, pretty much said, wait. And so they're actually going to put him in a wind tunnel at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And it's smart. It's like, don't worry about the parity for this year now and make a tweak before Bathurst. Get it done right, properly, at the end of the year and have it actually in a proper wind tunnel, and then the parity case is completely put to bed. So, and I can see both points, to be honest, because Ford are riding on having a good result, especially with Ford Australia and Ford America have said they're going to continue with supporting the series for another year, at least that they've gone public on that. But yeah, and look, at the end of the day, all the armchair critics and the keyboard warriors are saying, "Oh, it's going to be a walkover, this and that." Don't compare Sandown to Bathurst.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do,
completely different tracks and completely different circumstances. It's hard to look past the Camaros at this stage, though. But yeah, and it would ruin Bathurst if they have more parity conversations now, and then Ford come out and sweep the podium. It'll be the Holden fans, the Camaro fans will be up in arms. Ford fans are probably still going to be up in arms, saying that if a Camaro wins it, that they only won it because they had the advantage. But yeah, just the Ford team's just going to have to knuckle down in the week of Bathurst and try and steal it from underneath Camaro's nose.
Yeah, exactly. And a couple of things that came out of it was that Supercars had dropped the compulsory pit stop quantity, which brings back strategy. Which is fantastic. The other thing to note too is that it's definitely, especially around Bathurst, it's definitely going to be a reliability race, which is great. It hasn't been like that for a long time, and that's what it should be. The fastest and the most reliable. But then also the older drivers or the older school drivers like Craig Lowndes, etc., were all commenting that to drive the cars and get the best out of them reminded them of the supercar era of the early 2000s, which is what I've been saying all year, that the young brigade don't know how to set these cars up, and yet you've got Craig Lowndes who's driving like Craig Lowndes of 1996, and he's old enough, he should be retired.
Yep. So did a good job to bring it home in the top 10. So
fantastic drive.
Yep.
Absolutely. But we will cover more at Bathurst when we get to probably our next show, actually, because it's either on the race, the day of or the day after and stuff. My favourite time of the year, so I'll be frothing by the time I get to the studio.
You've reached the checkered flag of another episode of Negative Camber the Motorsport Show, proudly brought to you by Pro Karts Race Centre. A huge thank you to you, our incredible listeners. Your support and passion for motorsports fuels our enthusiasm to bring you the latest results, analysis, and interviews from the racing world. Keep that FOMO at bay by subscribing to Negative Camber on your favourite podcast platform. We'd also love it if you could leave us a review and share the show with your fellow racing enthusiasts. Your feedback and support mean the world to us. Remember, Negative Camber is more than just a podcast. We're a community of dedicated fans who live and breathe motorsports. Follow us on socials, join us on our website, negativecamber.co, and be sure to subscribe to the Negative Camber Club for access to exclusive content, episode previews, and special deals from our amazing partners. Until next time, stay fueled with passion, embrace the Negative Camber, and keep chasing those podium finishes.